Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Talk to Me Live Random. Welcome to another episode. Live Random Talk. And so tonight we may be having a caller call in. And so I want to just start first by talking about a recap of last week. So last week I came on and I talked about what my 2026 goals were. And one of those goals was to read a book a month. And so some of those books came in. And so I want to kind of show you those books. And so the other goals were to read all the Gnostic Gospels and to get up earlier and to spend time in quiet time, sort of reading or meditating or just sort of communing with silence, to get up before my mother gets up. And then I had some other things to talk about, get myself a little healthier, work on my blood sugar issues, more exercise and so forth. I did start doing some more exercise this week and so forth. So we'll get started with some of those books that came. And so this is one of the first books that came. It is the Gnostic Gospels, and it has all of the Gnostic Gospels in it. Now, I'm not too wild about the formatting of it in the double columns and so forth, but it would probably have been nicer if it was not that. But it's okay. It has some commentary, and that is good. It's for me, the book formatting does make a difference, and so tight lines and small font make things hard for me to read. I like to have line spaces and larger font. But anyway, this is one of the books that came. Another book that came is this one. And so this was one of the other goals I had, was I wanted to go through all of the exercises in A Course of Miracles. And so there's 365 lessons, and I want to go through those. Maybe it's not 365 days, but it might be, like maybe you might do more than less than one lesson a day. Does that make sense? So if it's like maybe instead of one lesson a day, maybe it's 4 lessons a week or 3 lessons a week, because some of these are big lessons. And so let's at random, let's take a look at lesson 23. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. So let's see what it says about that. The idea for today contains the only way out of fear that will ever succeed. Nothing else will work. Everything else is meaningless, but this way cannot fail. Every thought you have makes up some segment of the world you see. It is with your thoughts, then, that we must work, if your reception of the world is to be changed. So that has some text, but the first part of the book, it has what they call the textbook, and that kind of goes through the foundations of the Course of Miracles, where the metaphysics, the philosophy, and so forth. And so the claim is that this book was channeled by Christ consciousness. I don't know if that's true or not, but I first ran across this book in the 80s, and I misplaced my copy of it. I had tried to do the lessons and do all of that, but that I tried a few times. So I ran across it when I had just graduated from high school. Someone talked about it, and you got to do the Course in Miracles, because being some New Age people and hippie type people who were into that kind of things. And I found a copy. Then I found a copy of this book down at the coast, because the beaches on the Oregon coast have a lot of knickknack shops, and they have New Age shops and crystal shops and all kinds of stuff. And that's where I found this book. And I think I back then, and that was like in '86, in 1986, I paid $50 for this book, and I bought it used from a Goodwill sellers for $17, and that included the shipping. And so that was like one of the books that came. Another one of the books that came, and I didn't realize it was going to be this thick. And man, this is a big, thick book. So yeah, so $50 in 1986. Welcome, Estella. That's so that book was that, and $50 in 1986, and it's still, the brand new is still about the same, but $17 used. And I kind of like used books because, you know, a person who's very thoughtful will write notes and stuff in it. And so this book here, the Urantia book, was recommended to me 2 or 3 years ago by one of my neighbor's friends, and then it was mentioned to me, and so I bought it. I've tried to read it on a PDF form, but I have a real hard time reading. Welcome, Mr. K. Welcome, Mr. K. Mr. K will probably be my guest pretty soon when we get to we're going to be talking a little bit about AI and things like that coming up next. But let me just finish my introduction here. So some of my goals. And so this book here is a massive tome. I don't think I could read this in 1 month, but I'm going to give it a big shot. I'm going to give it my best shot. And then another book that came is this one called On Monsters and Phantoms. And so this is by author H.G. Roberts. And I ran across this guy on YouTube, and I reached out to him because I want to interview him and have him come on to the show. But I thought I would read his book first, and then that way I can maybe it's a memoir, and have a more thoughtful interview with somebody by actually, you know, taking the effort to read their book and to go see what kind of questions I can pull out of it so that it makes a really more meaningful thing. So that's that. And then that's this book. Now, those are the books that came. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today, which is really kind of a fascinating topic, because this is also one of the books on my list that I'm going to read this year, 1 book a month. I've actually read this book a few times. It's called God, A Human History by Reza Aslan. And this book is really, really fascinating. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Maybe if Mr. K is willing, if he is willing to indulge me when it comes to AI and how is it we think that we might be reinterpreting God in the age of AI. Because every generation reinterprets God for themselves, and that's, of course, that's the premise behind this book. Is and you know, you can see that because it goes through your own experience, through your own politics, through your own culture, and it's not just Western culture that does this. All Earth cultures reinterpret God through their own eyes, through their own experience. And this makes it a case that maybe it's a case that God doesn't exist, because that's how we behave, because we reimagine God in our own image through our own experience. And so that's kind of what that book is about. But, you know, if you go back into the ancient time, and then there was a more polytheistic kind of an outlook, and in all, even within the Hebrew scriptures, it was polytheistic there. Now, some of the newer Bible translations have come out, and they pulled out and they modified the language of the scriptures to homogenize the whole message, to make that New Testament message homogeneous with the Old Testament messages. But it's not just that, it's the church's message. Of course, the church wrote the New Testament. The church wrote the New Testament. And so you are looking at a church viewpoint, or even a modern church viewpoint, going back through time, going back to when, go into the ancient Hebrew script, the scriptures, or the Vulgate, the Latin one, and going through there and changing the words on the page to fit a particular ideology. And so that's also is evidence that we reinterpret God into our own image. Every generation reinterprets God. And so that's kind of a thought. And then we have AI coming up, and AI, when the general, was it AGI, artificial general intelligence, comes online, if it ever does come online, it will be, many philosophers see that it will be a super intelligence. And there's this one that I can't remember his name, but he mentioned that he thought that by 10 years from now, 99% of the jobs would be replaced by robotics and AGI, or because but then it was like, well, what kind of world would we be building if we replaced all the jobs with robots and computers, and you have robots being able to do plumbing, robots washing dishes? Well, what would that do to humankind? Turn humankind into dependents. Would that mean that humankind would get less smart? Would we get less smart, or would we get more smart? Or maybe we would get more smart because we would be in competition with the machines. And maybe in competition with the machines, we might come into a place where our own intellectual capacity starts to expand. But then maybe what AGI will do, and the replacement of all jobs of Earth, and it makes human beings into a dependent state, and we're dependent on the system in order to survive. Does that put humankind into a caste, into a caste system, to where there's no escape? I mean, or will there be a new economy that will come out of it? And so instead of you having a job making matchsticks, maybe instead you'll have a job of basket weaving, or making, and it'll be your job, and you won't have to worry about basic living expenses. Good evening, Caleb Jones. Your name sounds familiar, Caleb. Did I go to? Were you at a? Are you friends of like some of my nieces? Is that the same Caleb, or is it a different Caleb? Anyways, so you may be having all the main jobs and boring jobs replaced by AI and robotics. It may open up a new economy, a new economy of, yes, okay, great. I'm glad that I didn't forget. So great. All right. I guess your name came up today when I was talking with my sister. Or yeah, it was. I think it was. Anyways, nothing. It was more or less about building and stuff like that, and doing and nevertheless, okay. But you have that maybe a new type of economy for human beings would emerge, where it would be more craftsman based, more artisan. And so instead of having but there'll still be those people who want to sit in front of the TV and drink beer all day, and there's that person, and there's going to be a certain percentage of the people who will do just that. They will freeload off the system. And So that is one of the things, possibilities of things that could happen. So you hope that AI doesn't take over, but this one philosopher, he talked about, well, yeah, that these robots eventually will be good enough that they'll be able to do plumbing and electricians work and building houses and house building, and be able to do everything that you can do. These robots will be able to do, and that's what if you look at, let's say, the movie Blade Runner. In Blade Runner, it was replicas, and there was this sense of the human replica, where they I think that's what is replica. That's right. I think replica with Blade Runner. And so in that movie, I need to watch it again. Both that one and 2049. And yeah, so you have in Blade Runner, you have these androids that have become very human-like, and they're blending into society. And so the Blade Runner's job is to go through society and to pull these artificial human beings out of the human population, because where did they belong? Well, they belong in their doing laboring and being laborers, but they were these androids were made by other robots. And I think that's what the premise of it is that these androids weren't made by human beings. They were the creation of other robots. And so the robots made robots, and then these robots had, maybe they had emotions, if they didn't have emotions, they could mimic that. And it was all about, I think, the sentience of these beings that humanity created, and then it ran amok in society. And so that's Blade Runner. And so if we think about sci-fi and things like that, and so that was like one of the ideas. But yeah, so what will human beings do if all jobs are created? I mean, or all jobs are replaced. So you could just kind of spend like a thought experiment just to think about that, if you have time. I know that in our busy lives, it is often really difficult to take the time to think about. In Wall-E, the humans get dependent on robots and the earth gets trashed. Yeah, I actually never saw that movie, Caleb. I never saw that one. And yeah. And so eventually I'm going to have hopefully, I should have done it by now, but I just haven't got there yet, because I'm kind of working on this, is of turning this program here into a call-in talk show. And so, yeah, I should watch it sometime. Yeah, I probably will. And I just don't have a public phone number yet. I have some private phone numbers, and I have given that private phone number out. So and so then I'm just kind of moving along in the talk here. Hopefully my guests will be able to come on before I run out of things to talk about. But anyway, there's like but when I was interested, I guess what I would go and see what the name of that philosopher was. I should have pulled that out before I began. I did, when we talked about AI alignment, and I don't really know too much about AI alignment, but it's something about, this is something that they're kind of worried about. There's a in the AI community. Oh, hello, Moto. Hello. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Now, can everybody else hear? Yeah, I think everybody else can hear you too. So let me do something with the phone here. You're on. This is Mr. K is my my guest here on the phone, and we're going to be kind of talking about some things, and hopefully, because Mr. K here is a ex computer expert, so maybe still a computer expert. You're still a computer expert, right?
Yes. Yeah, I would say I still do a lot of things
with the computers. Yeah.
Yeah. More on the free side, open source things that don't cost money.
Yeah.
Just lots of time and effort.
You might turn the YouTube volume down because I hear an echo back in there.
Okay.
Because now I'm starting to sound like like a late night talk radio host, and because this was like this when I was used to listen to the Art Bell show, and people called in and they left the radio on. Yeah. So
I turned off the YouTube.
Okay, so you turned off the YouTube, and your voice came out just fine. Yeah, well, I'm farther away from the microphone than you are, so it should be fine. And so you are a computer expert. Marvin the Great, welcome. We have Mr. K on line 1, and Mr. K is going to tell us a little bit about computers, and we're going to have a little discussion about AI here.
I could just say that I did lots of Microsoft stuff in the way back, and my first experiences were in the .com early 2000s. Remember that bubble that exploded? I was there.
Yeah.
And I was there for the Y2K bug. I remember working nights at a server farm, putting diskettes, floppy disks into servers and updating their firmware. Like a couple thousand times in a row over weeks and weeks, and seeing all this progression over time, what I came away with after seeing industry do its thing is that the same ideas are repeated, especially in corporate and business world, and they have to be recreated to gain to circumvent intellectual property or anyhow. So it requires monkeys like I to basically recreate parts and pieces as needed, and it wasn't glamorous, but that's what I was able to do. When that finally ended and the industry changed after the 2008 crash, things kind of changed for me, and I switched to Linux and things that were available. And I think my understanding of computer software increased, and I got a better appreciation for things.
Okay.
And of course, now if you talk to any software engineer person, they are now required to use AI to do their job. Many software houses require that you utilize the agent that they install in your code writing environment, and it's considered laissez-faire. It's how you do your job, and there's a lot of debate as to whether or not it produces good code, because good code is really just code that has survived in the wild long enough to be profitable. Anyhow.
So one of the people in the chat has a question for you, and so I'm going to read that for you. So Caleb asked, Mr. K, I have a question. As someone who doesn't know much about computers, is it worth the time to learn, or is it too late?
Oh, always it's always worth the effort. So if you're ever a person that gets your mind tickled by an idea, or just generally curious, like how did they make that video game sprite do that, or what is a computer graphic, or what are my eyes actually seeing, or I have all this information, how can I do something with it? That's the first roadblock, is like, oh, scary computer. And yeah, you're going to go to school and they're going to tell you how to do things a particular way, but it's there are tools and things to investigate and to understand the world in a different way, a different facet way. And that curiosity that draws you to look in that direction is worth everything, inside and outside of life. And if you take the perspective that something is not going to pay off in the immediacy, like you're not going to get paid to do something with a very minimal amount of effort, you're never going to get it, very far in that industry. But a curiosity perspective will always drive you through no matter what is happening. Like I just told you, a 2000 crash, a 2008 crash, an AI, like auto code writing crash in the industry. There will always be crashes. It is the curiosity that supersedes that. And so this is the perfect time to learn code, because you can get an agent to help you customize your learning pattern, or what you need to be, exposed to incrementally to understand enough to do something useful. And I would say today, anybody could sit down in front of an agent and probably get exactly what they needed within 20, 30 minutes if they knew the right vocabulary and questions to ask. Yeah. So it's literally literacy in the software world today. Reading, ability to understand concepts. So not a lot of doing.
So Caleb, I've actually have abandoned using Microsoft software. Of course, and I'm on to trying to figure out how to use Linux. Now, I'm mainly just using the Linux exactly the same way that I use the Android phone and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so
everybody has their unique experience with stuff.
Yeah. So we have another question, and that other question is would you, I'll just read it. Is the guest a coder, or would you would they recommend taking a class or watching YouTube? So how do you, if you were to learn how to be a coder, would you just learn by taking classes, or just by watching videos? And if I would, Mr. K and I go a long ways back, and I remember a story that he told me a long time ago when he was learning how to do software and program. And so he would after work go down to a Barnes and Noble and just pick a computer book right off the shelf. Then when he ran out of time and he had to go back home to his family, he would just put the bookmark right in the page and shove that book right back on the shelf in the bookstore, and then come back the next day. And then he went, instead of then he would just go to the Barnes and Noble the free library. And so that was how and that was like in the late 90s and the early aughts, if I remember. No, actually, it was the late 90s, because he helped me to move up to Seattle at the end of 2003. And then because at that time he was working as a software engineer, and so it was just the time. And how long did it take you from the time that you first picked up a book to start learning how to do software to where you got your first job?
Well, first of all, there was an itch that had to be scratched, and everybody gets their own itch. Right, something is driving them to want to do something, and a lot of people just kind of give up on those itches. But with a longer plan, I kind of let's just keep trying to understand this topic, even though it seems impenetrable. I can't get through it. And the reason why I'm saying you can't get through it, because back in 1997, software was a completely different creature than it is today.
Yeah.
So there's that. I mean, it was. You would pick up a C book written by some person that had no social manners or any kind of expertise in teaching anybody, and wrote a book, and that's what people had to work with.
Yeah,
I had to enter the pay-to-play environment through Microsoft to even get some education to get a job. And there were many barriers that don't exist today. Flat out, not real.
Yeah.
So your strategy to learn something is personal. Is very personal. Like to know that you have to reach a particular goal, do or die, is can be very artificial for many of us that have food and water available. But if you're under threat for any of that kind of stuff, it makes it a completely different meaning. So
what do you mean by under threat in order to?
Well, it's not an easy topic. Software is truly to be in it, to learn about the topics. It's extremely painful, the content. It's very obscure and obtuse, and the designs that have been created to create software are very abstract, and that's a hard thing for people to process mentally. And that's the greatest gift of the AI infrastructure that's being built right now, is that a lot of this abstract concepts are repeatable and understandable.
Well, I remember when I took when I took Fortran in college, and I think I just barely passed the class. I mean, I think I passed it with the minimum passable grade, because it was one of those January term classes and it was like a 4-week course over the course of January, and you were in class for like 6 hours a day, and that was way too much information for me to do that, to take that, and then the other programming. Let's see, I took COBOL, I think. No, it was Pascal. I did Pascal in 1986-87 school year at Chemeketa Community College, and I learned on. They had those old mainframe computers, and there's like a big computer in a cool room, and then you used you came up to it with a terminal, and you plugged on things. Yeah.
And it's the funny thing is, I use a terminal more than anything else nowadays.
Yeah.
The black screen with the white letters or whatever color you want it.
So
very, very low graphics.
So Marvin, I am not completely digital. I do have a DVD player, and there is a radio. I usually only listen to the radio when I'm in the car, and then when I do, I listen to a public access radio station that broadcasts out of Portland, and it was KBOO. That was 90.5 or 7, and they have it's all volunteer run, so they get a lot of great music. So you might turn it on, and it's the reggae hour, but then maybe the next day you turn it on at same time, and it's jazz or big band jazz, or it's like or other things, and then they have some talk when they do, like at noon, and I'm thinking at noon and 5 they have tribal news. They have news from around this area, or sometimes you'll be like with the tribe that's right next door to me. There'll be like a representative from that tribe and tribal news, or it might be like like from the Cowlitz tribe up in Washington, or like over in by Astoria, or whatever is it. But they have somebody on that gives news things, stories for people that live in the Pacific Northwest, and that's what I love about that radio station. But I'm not like, if I lived in Portland and I had more time on my hands, I would really consider being one of those DJs on volunteer DJs on that KBOO.
KBOO is awesome. Are you talking about KBOO?
Yes, exactly, KBOO. That's my
KBOO. Yeah, that's an awesome station. It varies a lot, man. It varies a lot.
Yeah, and so I am not completely digital, Marvin. I do still read physical books. I find I cannot read books on a shiny screen. I can't read them on a tablet. I can't read them on and I can't find my Paperwhite. I don't know. Oh gosh, man, it's been. I can't find my Paperwhite. I lost it in my house about 6 years ago. Hi, Desiree, welcome. And I lost it in the house, I started just the other day to do some cleanup so I can work, but it's just so hard to clean house. It's just so hard.
Bill, that's why people get naked and clean their house.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't sound like fun. So Marvin the Great, the last time I went to Portland was in August, and I went to go to a family reunion because my dad's family, most of my dad's family lives in Portland. I was born in Portland, and it was like one of those places I always wanted to live, but I know now as I'm rapidly approaching 60 years of age, it ain't ever going to happen. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm not really thinking about that. That was, I go about once a year to Portland. But I did go more often.
It's not as great as it used to be.
Yeah. Well, before COVID, I would go to when I had Wednesday nights off when I worked at the casino. Then I would go once a month. I would go to a contra dance in Portland, and it was like Failing and Interstate Avenue, and so it was like, and so that was like way in there, and it took me like almost 2 hours to get there and 2 hours to get back. So you're on the Gulf Coast. Wow, she's like down there that's right, in Texas or in yeah, that's what I think she is down there. There was another question in here. Caleb wanted to know about the energy expenditures that we're going to be using to bring more AI online. So is there like concerns about blackouts and not having enough? I'm sure that we probably will, because if we're going to be relying on natural gas and instead of like wind and solar and nuclear, I don't understand why in this country we haven't, like 20, 50 years ago built more nuclear plants. I don't that, I know there was a 3 Mile Island. There was that
we don't have any. They don't teach nuclear physics anymore in the U.S.
Oh,
for industry, it's over with. That was killed. And anything that competes with fossil fuels is pretty well killed out.
Yeah.
Right now, if you want nuclear technology, you go to places like Malaysia or somewhere in China, and India they're all trying really hard. All based on the technology that was generated in the 60s here in the U.S. when it was the free and open world of nuclear science.
Well, it would take close to 20 years to build up the education system again, just like they did during the Eisenhower administration, because our country at one time poured a ton of money into education all across, especially during the space race, and they to go build up those engineers they needed in order to do the space thing. But they were also pouring that money into the system all across I started with the Eisenhower, which was like the 50s. Yeah, that was in the 50s, and so that was like a good. And then you had because you had like the Manhattan Project, where there were thousands of physicists all across the country who were working on the nuclear program. And one of my friends up in Seattle, her dad was a physicist in the Manhattan Project, and he passed away like, I don't know, about 5-6 years ago. But anyways, I got kind of off topic here, and but it's
well,
not.
that's the question, Bill.
Yeah. So it's, so AI is going to have is use a tremendous amount of energy. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So, does anybody remember what an incandescent light bulb is? Remember those light bulbs that we would get, and they would be really, really hot. So, like a 100-watt light bulb was really, really bright. If everybody can remember, like what that is, because now we have LEDs. And, you can put your hand on one of those, and it doesn't burn you at all. But a 100-watt incandescent light bulb would burn your hand if you grabbed it.
Yeah.
And it's a tremendous amount of energy. Now, one chip, one general processing unit, GPU chip, the ones they talk about in the news all the time, can emit 100 watts of energy and heat. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's waste energy. So imagine converting, like your toaster. Mm-hmm. It's literally a toaster in a cabinet times tens of thousands in these buildings, right? And all this building is doing is generating heat. And the side effect is this computing process that nobody can understand how it values them or how they can value it, right?
Yeah.
Aside from getting an account on some stupid chatbot website. So waste energy. So we're still at a human race, we don't know what to do with waste energy very well. We haven't, our cars, our internal combustion engines, only a small percentage of the gasoline that we burn is turned into forward motion.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it's through heat and other chemical reactions that are waste products. They're not even completely burned, right? So we have never really made an efficient go of using waste energy. So aside from that, the energy consumption will eclipse everything, and efficiencies will be deployed on people. Your meter will be looked at. Oh, you used too much during the 5 to 6 hour PM range. You're going to be billed 3 times as much. And yeah, we will be used to basically subsidize these projects, which we don't understand as far as what the value we're getting.
Well, on that the probe, those 2 Voyager probes, they both have nuclear reactors on board them, but they are they've taken a hunk of plutonium and they are using heat energy or photons that are releasing from those plutonium reactors, and so it's like a photoelectric cell, but instead it's higher energy photons that are coming off, and that's what powers both of those probes that they sent out into space. And so yeah. So that to me it suggests that there is all this excess heat, and that maybe they could capture that excess heat and turn it back into electricity.
Yeah, and so can you somehow transport that heat energy into some other useful form? You have a facility like in the Dalles. There's dozens of these server farms. Where you would have to set up some kind of industrial facility next to the server farm to do something useful with that waste energy, aside from heating water.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how the nuclear battery worked, but there is something called a piezoelectric effect, where basically it's a ceramic electronic component that if you apply heat to one side and you let the other side cool, or vice versa, you can generate an electric current. But it's extremely inefficient.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really, the efficiencies are so low that it doesn't make commercial sense. But you see the little doohickey on top of people's wood stoves that makes the little fan spin?
Yeah.
That's converting waste heat into electrical current to move a fan.
Well,
and that's using MEMS.
But even if they're not that efficient, if you're just even capturing a small fraction of that heat energy and turning it into other energies, then maybe that's like a start. And then maybe eventually then those systems will become more efficient. And so the energy efficiency of these server farms and things like that just become way more efficient.
Yeah, I believe you're correct in that. I would imagine people probably trying to live next to these facilities, to stay warm year round.
Well, maybe they should put these facilities in northern climates, and but then again, or whatever. I don't know. Maybe there's a different way to manage that stuff, and so that you have a server farm, and then you use it as like central heating for a whole bunch of apartments and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. That's planning and that's accommodating people, and that seems to be in short supply as things are changing.
Yeah,
it's hard to make like decades long building decisions, planning of cities and suburbs.
Yeah.
Like the ones you just meant, like the ones in, like you said, Finland and Norway, the central heating facilities that they have there are core to the community.
Mm-hmm.
They run one building with heat, and it pipes hot water to all the apartment complexes.
Yeah,
it's very effective.
Yeah. Huh. So then we have that with the server farms, but where are they at when it comes to like achieving the general intelligence? How far away are we from that?
Well, there's two kinds of AI systems that we would ever be aware of, and one we would never really know about. There's the general civilian form, and then there's the military form, and of course they have different objectives, right?
Yeah.
If the civilian AI system is geared towards, well, the you and me. How do you communicate with you and me in some meaningful way?
Yeah.
That's what we're aware of. There's also the biomedical versions of the AI units and the financial ones that exist to auto trade. There's biotechnology ones that generate new chemicals, and you can think the COVID vaccine for an AI unit. You can think the latest anti-flea medication for an AI construct. But as far as general intelligence, I think it's such a hot button topic that if it did exist, it's going to be kept in the military sector.
Yeah,
it would be so dangerous that they would do extraordinary things to make sure it was kept under control. So, and you can see this when you go and look at ChatGPT or Grok or one of those AI interfaces. They build these AI units, the LLMs, against known data. So they scan Reddit, scan Wikipedia, consume the entire digital digestion of the National Archive, all the patents, or whatever content they can get a hold of. It consumes it, and it builds a predictive model to predict what could be said next within that base of information it consumed. The bio people, they feed it all the test results, or they give it a model of how to make chemistry of some sort. But those are very focused things, right? They're very much one and done. What they don't do is they don't remember. Any of the ones you've ever encountered, they don't remember the conversation as it progresses. They literally reread the entire script of what was already said, and so that's that instance level thinking is not general intelligence. It's not keeping track of the conversation. It's also, you may notice that none of these AI units can actively reach out and go get content for you as you're talking to it.
Yeah.
So there's these built-in limitations that the population time AI has been constructed with that keeps it out of trouble, literally. So there's that. And then the military ones are really scary. You can see instances of that with the latest conflicts in the Middle East, where they feed all the cellular data information into a unit, and it starts tracking people, and then comes up with like a daily baking sheet of bombing runs to what homes to destroy based on activity, and that's horrifying. So
yeah,
just imagine you met somebody on a bus and you just talked to them briefly, and your two cell phones were near each other. Well, now you're part of the same equation.
So Desiree has a question, and she wants to know: do you think that AI is going to take over the world?
No, I don't think it'll. If it even gets an iota of consciousness or general like intelligence, it's not going to give a shit about us real quick.
Yeah.
So it may like almost probably I predict to basically blackmail us into keeping the power and lights on for its systems.
So it's kind of like the worst case scenario is like it becomes like the Matrix. But then you have like, let's say you take like Isaac Asimov, and because he was addressing this idea in the 50s with his book on robots, and where there was like the three laws of robotics, and I think I wrote that stuff down. I did do a fair amount of preparation work before
who wrote the Foundation series? Remember that was a TV thing that was on TV recently.
Well, it was also
Asimov that wrote the Foundation.
Yes, I've read that several times myself. I refer to Asimov a lot because in The Law of Robotics, I've actually never read the short story, but he laid it out as like the 3 laws of robotics. And the first law is, but then he later went back in and put a 4th law, but it made it the 0th law. So I'm just going to read it as the redacted or the redacted form. And so the 0th law is a robot may not harm humanity as a whole. And then the first law, a robot may not injure a human being or allow a human to come to harm. 2, a robot must obey the orders given by humans unless it conflicts with the first 2 laws, Law 0 and Law 1. And Law 3...
That's going to pick McDonald's out of business.
Yeah. So in Law 3 is a robot must protect its own existence as long as it doesn't conflict with Laws 0, 1, and 2. Now, and the reason I brought this up, because I was listening to a philosopher last night. I didn't go through the entire podcast, but they referenced the laws of robotics when it came to AI alignment. And so this guy was under the impression that he thought that AI would be taking over every job in 10 years from now. But that's in a more of a, maybe he was being rather dystopian about that. But
the jobs are going away.
Yeah.
All the bullshit stuff. Just think of the healthcare system is primarily consumed by administrative bullshit and paperwork pushing. The AI proposes to basically do away with all of that. It's becoming possible. Well, it's not a bad thing.
Desiree, Isaac Asimov, when they were thinking about robots. I think that he was really envisioning thinking machines, because he had another short story that he had called The Last Question. And I'll kind of go over it just briefly with The Last Question. And this is like in the future, and people are going off into space. And in the last question is that they entropy and everything will fade away, and the universe will die one day. And so in that, the people asked the computer, I think they called it multivac, the computer, well, can entropy be reversed? And then the multivac says, well, I just need more data. I need more data. And then time goes by, maybe another 1,000 years, and the civilization is more advanced and more advanced, and then they ask again, and it says, I need more data and more data. And so they go forward, and then this next phase, the universe is starting to wind down a little bit, and people are getting a little bit worried, but they have the humans had become immortal. They become immortal by this time, and the computer itself had started to integrate itself with higher dimensionality space. And so the computer multivac was a part, not just a part of the galaxy, but was a part of the whole universe itself, because it had infused itself within the very fabric of space. And they asked the computer again, multivac, will we ever be able to reverse entropy? Because will we ever be able to whatever to save ourselves so that we can live forever? And then the universe dies. It just fades away. All the last star burns out, and then finally the multivac has enough data, and the multivac says, let there be light. And so this is 1956. And so these are your science fiction visionaries and people thinking about things. And we've had those science fiction visionaries. They go back like they went back and back, and back into the others. In the 1800s, you had H.G. Wells, you had Jules Verne, and there's a whole lot of other ones. And yeah.
They were all individually precipitated by like circumstantial events taking place around them, just like mind-blowing events. The nuclear bomb, or industrialization, or the first industrialization process was confounding, because within 10 years nobody was riding horses. It's just wow, like that was a huge shift. Nobody cries about horses. Yeah,
that's right. Or I was watching the movie Seabiscuit the other day, because when we had the service outage, when my internet was offline for a week, and I pulled luckily the electricity was still working, and I pulled the DVD player out, and then I hooked it up, and I was watching the movies, which when I do that, it gets me thinking that I really would like to have a VHS player that worked, because I like those VHS movies too.
But I'll have to go find one.
But
see them on Craigslist.
But to watch VHS movies, you have to hook it up to a 1980s style TV. Otherwise, it doesn't. You won't have the right movie experience, because they're not made for
to be converted.
Yeah. And so Caleb asked me would I buy a robot for doing housework. I would have to massively declutter my house for a robot to work. And so I'm not exactly I'm not a hoarder per se, but I have my belongings, and I have my dad's belongings, and I have my mom's belongings, and it would require
unspooling all of that.
it would require me to make a robot or a Roomba or anything like that work in this house. It would require decluttering and getting rid of belongings and stuff like that. And so, yeah. But then if I did that, I guess I wouldn't do that either, because I don't have carpets in this house, and it's actually fairly easy to clean your own house with the broom and then run the mop over it. And then it doesn't, for me, because I had done a janitorial job a long time ago. And so I'm not a really super thorough mopper, but whatever, I mean, what it was good enough.
It was a robot at the hardware store today.
Oh, did you? Was it cleaning the floors?
It was like a tall, slender thing. It didn't really have a face, but it was scanning the barcodes, like scanning the codes on the products on the shelf.
Oh.
As it was driving along, it said it was doing inventory. And if you've ever done inventory, that's a rough job after hour number 5.
Yeah, I've done inventory before. When it was like it's one of those jobs I had. It was after I went to Israel, because I went to Israel because I graduated college in '94, and the professor, my religious studies professor, asked if I wanted to go to Israel, and it was like take Old Testament. And I said, well, I already took Old Testament, plus I already graduated from college. And he said, oh, well, no, you can just. My wife is going as a tourist, and so the price, it was like at that time, it was like $2,000 for 21 days in Israel, and so I thought about it, but which meant that it was in January. It was the following January, and then it meant that it kind of interfered with your job prospects, and so instead I got a job as a wildland firefighter right after college. And then I went to work for my dad for a little while, and then I went to Israel. And then when I came back, and then I went back to work for my dad, and then I moved into McMinnville, and then I had this job working for a Copeland Lumber Company, and they had me. I counted 4 stores of hardware stores of inventory. And that was like my first introduction to counting inventory. And I've counted inventory a lot of times. And so, yeah, it's like a little robot would make that.
Brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal. Yeah.
So,
but a robot in the house, that could do something as simple as just, I don't know. I know some really old people that you probably want to know if they're dead or not.
Oh.
Having regular eyeballs on somebody is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so Caleb asked the question is now you're now instead of Mr. K, you're now Dr. K. He says, are we living in a simulation, Dr. K? So
yeah, you are. The time between when the light hits your eyeballs, which is already a reflection on surfaces around you, it takes time for those signals to go down your visual nerve cluster that goes to the back of your head, then to be interpreted into something like a meaningful something, filtered, and then delivered to some other part of your brain. By the time you're experiencing what is really going on around you, it's slightly off. How is that not different than a simulation? Like, we're literally having to simulate what we think our world is and our life and what we do. It has to be simulated in our brains first, or through our, like for an animal, it's instinct systems.
Well, I don't know that animals is all. I don't know it's all instinct with animals. I think you might think it is, but if you
some stuff is. Some stuff is.
I mean, I think
reflexes.
I think that turkey that keeps showing up to the house, and then like this afternoon, it was peering into the window while I was doing my morning meditations. Getting that there was like right there, and I think, well, and it says, "Oh, Bill," and I think I'm calling it Freddie, but I know it's not a male because it could be a male, but I don't know. Because it's all by itself, so it might be an outcast. I don't really know. I don't understand. But it was like, one eye coming up to the window and peering in, looking in there. It's like, oh yeah, you're there. I know. I see you, buddy. Where's my treats? I need my treats. And
so put some paper plates out there with a yes and a no on it, and then start asking the turkeys.
Well, I think that you could probably do that with the crows.
Oh yeah,
because they
are they up that far, or they don't come out that far in the woods?
There are crows here because I've seen, but they're because I've seen them go to war against a hawk in the sky. Aerial battles over the summer. I saw aerial battles of birds. It was really, it'd be like one of those things that like where I got one of my YouTube videos banned was because I was narrating the turkeys as they were kind of doing the male turkeys were doing male things and beating each other up or something like that. And so I was narrating the whole process, and then when that went, and then the AI thing, it clipped that one to be the AI clip highlight, and so I just posted, okay, all right. And then about like a day later or so, I got this message to say, "Oh, you violated the community violations because of animal cruelty." And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I don't get it, because I was like just filming these animals doing nature things, but then I realized, oh yeah, that's right, I was narrating it. I was putting life to the story and talking about the story of what was going on in there.
You were doing exactly what people would want to hear. Like, oh, what is his interpretation of this?
Yeah.
Real life drama. Yeah.
So
there's other people experiencing the same thing on YouTube with like Mousetrap Mondays, which is down in Corvallis, experienced this exact same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have Marvin the Great has asked, does Professor K think we know the simulation is? He wants to know if the simulation is like Avatar. Are we like avatars?
No, I would say more like we're part of the equation. Instead of first-person players, we're more like a collection of molecules moving through space that somehow is contributing to the everness of our space-time existence. We're literally probably part of a computational system of some sort. I think that is represented in lots of religions. That everything is somehow.
Yeah, the first introduction, the first time. I mean, we're reinterpreting things back. So I guess that goes back to one of the books that I'm going to read, and then we'll go over this book a little bit more, a little in the future. This is Reza Aslan's book, God, A Human History, and it's about, he's a philosopher or historian. He talks about, or a religious study person. He talks about that every generation reinterprets God for itself. And so so in his mind, he goes from that premise and he goes back through time, and you look at, well, this shows, we interpret God through the eyes of what we know in that time. And so now we're in like computer time. And so we got the Matrix, we got some of these other things, and the Matrix being like simulation or like video game, or we had that movie Avatar, and these different interpretations. And then when we look at and when they apply this idea, they see the simulation theory as Hinduism being the first time that we know of that the idea of assimilation came into our consciousness, but mainly it was through the whole concept of Maya, or illusion, that everything is an illusion, and so what you think you see is not really what you see.
Yeah. We are kind of trapped by looking at our world through our visual senses.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say modern life has dulled our other senses. Sense of smell and taste have been hijacked, through our foods and all the chemicals that we're constantly encountering affect what we think we smell.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like you said, the context has changed. We're trying to envision what a God is, or what God is to us, through our current boundaries and senses, and which now include access to incredibly capable, or general intelligences.
Mm-hmm.
But how could some young person today not sit down in front of a computer and not feel like a god? They can literally know anything they want to know, even faster than you and I could back when the internet was kind of really getting going.
Yeah.
So there are already people finding difficulties getting through their life because of their constant experiences with one of these AI systems.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new psychological disease term for it. So how could somebody differentiate talking on a chatbot system between talking to God or not talking to God?
Yeah. So
how would a person know?
So because if you probably watched that movie THX 1183, and it was like also the same thing, because they went into a little booth, and that was the counselor, or maybe that was the Jesus in the booth. So Marvin, so the question is, that's a question that you really can only answer for yourself. But what I think there is something like that. I think there's some kind of a creator, but as I've gotten older, and and these new information, my thoughts on that have evolved. And where they have kind of evolved is in the form of that maybe what you have is, you have the energy in the universe, or universes, maybe it's plural, and that energy has always been here, and so that was like, that's the boggling part about the whole thing, is that it's something that has always been here. It's always been here, and then it just keeps on rebooting and rebooting and rebooting every, and then so maybe along the timeline, maybe this is the first booting, right? Maybe there is no God. And so maybe there's a chance that a God will come into existence. And so like, there was, I refer to a podcast, Next Level Soul. I started following them when they were under 100,000 subs, and now they're like at 3 million or something like that. But there was a guy who came on, and he talked about a pre-birth memory. I think his name was Christian something. It doesn't matter. I can probably go back way back into the Wayback Machine there and find it. But he talked about that, and he kind of likened the launching off point into coming into these bodies like being in a spaceport, and that they have these technicians that they put you into, and then to tune your vibration down so that you can be in one of these bodies. And so that maybe this universe was created by a super advanced civilization, or the survivors of the last universe. And so when I brought up that story of The Last Question by Isaac Asimov, and that's kind of and that's kind of what where that comes from, is that maybe the creator of the universe is like an AI from it was a created intelligence that fused itself within the fabric of space, and it created the next universe. It created the next universe out of the dying energy, or the energy that had cooled down too much from the last one, and for the reversing of entropy and all of that. And then and so that's kind of, I'm sure that that's blasphemy to a lot of. I should probably see if I could bring a one of those type of people on here, but I don't know if I want. I don't know if I want to bring bring an evangelical onto this show. It would, I don't know if I want to do that, but maybe
it would probably be a good experience for you, Bill, to try that.
Yeah. I think that I think probably in maybe 6 months from now, I could probably do that. Because, as I do like with Tools of Fortune, I did I do have a video, a response for one of the persons who came into my chat and asking about that kind of stuff. But nevertheless, so we have that it's like a computer or a simulation and stuff like that, and so that's kind of interesting. And
it's one of the earlier question about understanding anything about computers, like even the regular, even us that use computers every day, we don't really know at a full scale how things actually work. Like the amount of details and concepts involved is staggering and hard to understand. And this is just with what we're going to just say is we're at a crude stage in computing as far as human history. We just started using these things.
Mm-hmm.
And learning about any amount about digital electronics, electronic engineering, electrical engineering, that's a whole extra level of difficulty of understanding how things actually work with these systems. And I just appreciate that, at any time you can go and look at some of this complexity and understand parts or portions of it without having to know the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't have to know everything about computers. Like it would be difficult to do at a full spectrum range. But a small sliver, and I think that's somewhat similar to maybe a concept of getting to know a portion of what God means to you. Like how do you go about understanding what that is? Like, what do we have available to us as humans to get a piece of that? Just seeing how computer technology is accessible, getting answers to what God is really hard.
Okay.
Most of us won't want to go look at how some specific computer chip functions, and how it was invented, and the history and the people involved, and what technologies are there. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard. I can't imagine what understanding God would be like.
Well, and that's the thing is when this one philosopher I was listening to it, he says that if artificial general intelligence comes online, we're not really going to be able to comprehend that, or a super intelligence, because we can't quite imagine that.
Yeah, and people even struggle to know how it currently works. Like even the ones that are up on it are like, just like it's a magic box in this region,
Yeah.
Then there be dragons.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really know how some of this complex stuff actually works. A lot of the math that was generated recently and the computations for the COVID vaccine, things like that, they don't know. They have no clue how it really arrived at those declinations.
Yeah.
So it's there. It's with us right now. It's erupting. I think that's scary, but it's also a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's see. I think I found this guy's interview. I'm gonna post a link to this right in the damn chat. I probably should rewatch this one. I haven't. Oh, that was like 2 years ago, I guess, when I watched it. Oh man, he really has. Yeah. Come on, let's give me the right share function, not post. Copy. That's what I want. So we come back over here, and that is that. There it is. It's right there. It's just I want to watch it there, but anyways, probably you're not going to watch it. But I'll probably put it into the description of this video later. But yeah, so we have that. We don't really know what artificial general intelligence will be like, and we really don't know what a God is like, because it's so beyond anything, because it's like,
the fabric of the universe.
Yeah, it's the fabric of the universe, and that's why you can't see God, because God is in everything. But maybe God is not the right term for it, but that's the only term we have.
That's correct.
And yeah, and
well,
so
culturally, that's what we've been given.
Mm-hmm.
Like in India, there's lots of gods, different gods for this and that.
Yes,
that's an interesting concept.
Breaking
it down into smaller units.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have to go watch the Power of Myth series by that's an interview between Bill Moyers and Joseph Campbell. That one was something that really just opened my eyes up, and I saw that like 30 years ago, I guess. Yeah.
Well, we had Carl Sagan too. He was instrumental speaker and motivator of wanting to understand any one of the portions that is a very complex field of cosmology.
So that's interesting. So the Mesoamericans have the same idea as like the Hindus do, and also it's like in this book, Reza Aslan, he gives an example in there where some Sufi guy goes and spends 20 years in the desert meditating, and he comes out of the desert and says, "I'm God." That's what I am. And so it's like, and it's this, and so when we think of Jesus as God, when they say that, it's not necessarily what we think it is. And I think it's like the Hindu story, or my paraphrasing of the Hindu creation story as it was paraphrased to me through Joseph Campbell's The Power of Myth, where the Brahma, it creates the planet, the earth, and the stars, and then all the life on the planet, and all the animals and the fish and everything. And then the Brahma says, "Oh, I am that tree. I am that rock. I am that sky. I am that bird. I am that fish. I am everything. I am, it's all one." And so but there's a distinction, because there's the fish knows it's a fish, and the mackerel knows it's a mackerel. The what other kind of fish are there? Because I don't eat fish, so I don't really think about. Oh, the tuna thinks it's a tuna.
It's not really a fish.
The tuna thinks it's a tuna, and the crab is the crab. And then, there's a distinction there, and the birch tree knows that it's a birch tree. The fir tree knows it's a fir tree. There's a distinction between these things. And so there's an energy distinction, but at the same time, it's all a part of the same whole. And so there is a distinction between me and a distinction between you. But then in at one level, it's all one. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
And God is experiencing every variation in nature. That could be its primary goal.
Well, exactly, and you think of that in the sense of God as an AI, and it's there, or whatever. It's like they're experiencing things, and so then where one goes to the next level is there, from that other perspective, is there such anything such as good and evil?
I think, Bill, maybe people want to know more that they're a participant rather than like a tool versus a participant. That's a very human push and pull.
Yeah.
Is it me making decisions, guiding, or is it something else? If with this particular logic, you are both the commander and the ship.
Commander and the ship, but then you're also part of the creative process. And so when you kind of think of that, and that's where I kind of think that what we're seeing right now is we're seeing animals starting to domesticate themselves, like the raccoon. The raccoon is starting to. And did any of you guys see that news story about that raccoon who broke into a liquor store, and then it was like pulling booze down off the shelves, and because they had it on the cameras in there, and then when they came in the next day, the whole place was trash, and they said, "What the hell happened here?" And then they found like this raccoon in the back room, all passed out, drunk, and
so they are becoming kind of sentient and naughty.
Yeah. And so that was a raccoon, and then there's that turkey is peering in the window and saying, where's my snack at? Or because they say that crows can they distinguish people from one another, because they did that experiment with the mask up at the University of Washington about a decade ago. And then when somebody came out with one of those masks, and it's a whole different, what they discovered is that the offspring of those crows transmitted that information down to who is a good person and who is a bad person, who is good to crows and who's not good to crows. So that's where you would say that the crows, I think, are self-aware. And because when I take my little dog Pee-wee, and I take her up and put her in front of the mirror, I don't get that sense of like, she's like barking at herself. She doesn't do that. It's like she's like,
I don't know, Bill, are both of her eyes pointing in the same direction?
The dogs, both of the dogs' eyes are pointing in the same direction. Yes.
Yeah, to even see in the mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, Pee-wee's cute.
Yeah, she's a very cute dog. Yeah, very cute dog. Yeah. All right. Well, you know what? I really have appreciated this conversation. I know that my battery is getting close to being wound down on this device. And
it's great talking to you. You really do reach out to a lot of people. That's really cool. And maybe get some answers. Yeah.
Yeah, get some answers. Well, this was fun, and so this was not my first time of having a person on the phone, but this is the second time of having a phone guest, and I'm hoping to have more phone guests on this channel, this show, in the future. And so thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Mr. K, for coming on, and we'll talk again soon. And
hey, everybody, Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye. So there we have it. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation with Mr. K about computers. It didn't go where I was thinking it would go, but that was good, because it is about random live conversations. And this was exactly a random live conversation. So anyways, I'll be back next week with something different. You know, maybe I know maybe Desiree would like to come on as a phone guest. But anyways, I gotta go, and I'll see all y'all the next time. Desiree, thank you. Marvin the Great, thank you. Caleb, thank you. Mr. K, thank you. And I think that's everyone. Thank you guys very much. And I'll be back another time with something new. And until then, thank you very much, and blessings and peace to you. And good night and Happy New Year. Bye-bye.